Hi guys, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be opening the December Scrawlrbox. I didn't complete the November Scrawlrbox unfortunately because I didn't really know what to do for it, so maybe I'll complete it at a later date or I'll just use the materials to practice with or something. But anyway, I've heard that this month's challenge is very interesting, so I'm looking forward to seeing what's inside this box. Okay. Oh, wow, okay, there's quite a lot in here. This is Spectrum Noir Colorista. I've used the Spectrum Noir markers because they were in the October challenge, so this will be interesting. I think this is foil designs and glitter designs. Okay, it's a marker pad, it's got some things to practice with. Oh, do markers actually work on glitter? That's cool. So that is the featured artist for the month, Rebecca Lockler. I hope I pronounced that right. So we've got, this is Spectrum Noir, sorry I just stared at it then without saying anything. We've got Spectrum Noir Colorista markers. Colorista, I don't know. So these are like a type of alcohol marker. They look like they're specifically for small detailed pieces. This is a permanent Identi-pen by Sakura. I don't know if that's got a flexible nib or if that's just a firm nib. Oh, this is some kind of brush pen. Spectrum Noir Sparkle. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay, so it does have a brush nib. Yeah, so that's a crystal clear sparkly pen. That's quite cool. I'm looking forward to trying that. And then we've got colouring pencils. Spectrum Noir Colorista Colorists pencils. For a more professional result, try these quality pencils for colorists. Strongly pigmented and easy to use for smooth, vibrant coverage. So let's see what the challenge is for this month. Oh, okay, wow. Right. The challenge for this month is design a colouring page. That's quite vague, isn't it? That's a really vague challenge actually, because you could design a colouring page for anything. Yeah, I guess I'll get started thinking up some ideas. Okay, so I decided to do a little test run before I properly did this challenge because, as you know, I have made the mistake of not doing test runs in my Scrawlrbox videos before and everything has gone horribly wrong. So I made sure to do it all properly, do a little test run and try and get the composition into place as well. For this piece I decided to draw my original character Ikure because the colours that I received brought to mind his kind of colour scheme and the setting that I could put him in. But I still was a little bit concerned about whether I'd be able to blend those colours together properly. I'm not sure if everyone received the same colour markers in these sets, but I'm pretty sure that everyone received the same coloured pencils because they're the ones that are on the little leaflet that they include in the box. So I think they picked the most difficult set that they could have done because there isn't a name, it's just called set 6, but it's quite a bright set so they don't naturally blend very well together, whereas I looked up some of the other sets and they're sort of more pastel tones that would blend more easily, so I think they probably picked those to make it even more of a challenge. But the markers I got, obviously I got the tangerine and then I got the green colour as well. That one was called pear green, and so I was kind of a little bit worried about how I would be able to merge those into the rest of the picture because I didn't know if coloured pencil and marker would work well together. I don't tend to merge them very often. I don't often use mixed media actually, so I've got to get more into practice with that. But my first run, on my test run, I decided to try using the markers for Ikure's hair, and then I decided it looked too bold and it wouldn't look good at all with the rest of the picture being coloured pencil and his hair being in marker. So that's why when I did the final piece, I decided to use the marker sort of much more subtly. Like I said, the challenge for this one was designing a colouring page, which was quite a vague sort of open challenge, and when they're more open I think it's actually more difficult to settle on an idea because you might have too many. For this one I decided to settle on drawing Ikure because there was lots of little details that I could add in. I thought since it needs to be a colouring page, then something with more details and patterns would be fun, so I went for this character because he has the pattern with the scales and I can add some detail into the background and so on. I don't know if we were supposed to do like patterns or something more similar to what was in the example in the box, but I think the fun with these challenges is to create a sort of balance between fulfilling the challenge but also keeping it identifiable as your work. And kind of demonstrating what you can do while sticking within those guidelines. So that's what I was aiming for, just to draw something that had a lot of detail that I could enjoy colouring and really testing out the materials with. And since it is a colouring page, I did scan it at the line art stage, and I have posted it full size on my Patreon. Most of the stuff on my Patreon is subscriber exclusive, but there are a few public posts, and I'll put a link to it in the description box. And then if you like, you can download that and practice colouring on that if that interests you at all. Trying to do the line art for the final piece of this was a nightmare because I had so many false starts. I think I restarted it about 7 times and I just could not get it to look how I wanted it. There were issues with the anatomy, the face. It was just each time I messed up something and I was getting so frustrated. And sometimes it's easy to look at other artists' work. I'm not saying I'm one of these artists myself, but sometimes it is easy to look at other artists online and think, they can't do anything wrong, everything they do is perfect, everything goes right first time, and I just want to tell you that that is not true at all. I saw a quote once that said, when you look at other people's work, you're seeing the highlights reel, you're not seeing the behind the scenes, and behind the scenes there are lots of mistakes and lots of false starts, and I am definitely no exception. I literally have a pile of half-finished line arts that were supposed to be this drawing and they just turned out so bad. So I'll probably put a picture of them all lined up on my Twitter or something. But yeah, I just could not get this right. I think I spent the whole day trying to do this line art and I was getting so annoyed I just had to walk away and do something else. But when that happens, it is so frustrating. You just have to take a step back, maybe go for a walk, do something else for a while, and then come back to it, because just trying to repeat it over and over is just going to make it worse. One of the main issues that I had is that Akure was so difficult to pose. Body was all out of shape and then I couldn't get his tail in, and I thought I'm not even going to try and fit his tail in because it's too long. It's just going to have to stay out of the shot. And so in the end I settled on a sort of just upper body view, which ideally I would have liked to fit his whole body in, but it just wasn't going to happen. Oh, and also while I'm on the subject, that's why I'm working on A4 paper. I'm working on the Daler Rowney mixed media paper instead of the paper they provided in the box. I'm not sure what paper they did provide, unfortunately, because it doesn't say on the leaflet. Now, I really like this paper because you can use all media, including alcohol markers on it, which is interesting considering that it is a textured paper, and usually the paper that you can use alcohol markers with is always smooth, and I really like working on textured paper, so that's great for me. Honestly, I prefer how the colour came out from the coloured pencils on this paper than I did with the one that they provided. Now onto the actual supplies that came in the box. I really liked using the coloured pencils, but unfortunately I did find that we're a little bit brittle. I actually sharpened them with the proper Spectrum Noir sharpener because, like I've said before, my mum uses a lot of Spectrum Noir materials, and she was like, you have to use this sharpener or they'll break. So I used the sharpener, and a couple of them still broke, and I wasn't using them very heavily at all. I was using them as lightly as possible. And so I'm concerned they may be a little bit on the brittle side, but they did blend really nicely together. I wasn't honestly expecting to get such a nice blend with this combination of colours. It is a slightly strange combination, like I said. There's 2 yellows which are very, very similar, and I wasn't expecting them to actually work out quite so well. After I did the line art, I thought, I really hope that this is going to go okay and I'm going to be able to achieve the colours I want and I don't end up with a luminous pink merman. But in the end, I'm really happy with how the blending turned out, and I'm really happy that I managed to do a picture involving a sky and a sea scenery without resorting to using all the blue, because that's something I really need to learn. I've always kind of been in the habit of drawing blue skies and blue seas, and they're not always like that, and that's something you've got to train yourself, is to see things as they are rather than how you think they are. So I'm really happy that these kinds of challenges force me out of my comfort zone and force me to consider using much more minimal colour schemes in my work, because it's very easy to think, oh, I can't draw that because I don't have those supplies or I don't have those colours, and that's not always the case, because sometimes restricting yourself is better, because you can really explore your colour usage and find methods that you would never have found if you had that whole colour range at your disposal. And that's something that I really like about the Scrawlrbox challenges. I get a lot of people say to me, well, why don't you just buy the supplies yourself? Because it seems a lot of money to just get a box of art supplies when you could just go and choose your own. But that's not the point. Besides, you do get more than the £15 worth anyway. But also the fact is that you're given a challenge and you get to see people all around the world doing the same challenge as you, interpreting it in their own way. And it's really fascinating, and I love seeing other people's interpretations, and I love seeing what I could achieve. And it's always something that I wouldn't have ever considered doing before. Now, as for the markers, I'm not really sure how I feel about those because I haven't really had the chance to practice blending with them. I did a practice piece and layered up the colour, but I didn't feel that it darkened when you layered it as much as I would expect from an alcohol marker. I don't know if they use the same ink as the Spectrum Noir normal markers. It seems similar, the only exception being the smaller nibs, but personally I didn't feel that I had enough experience with them to properly give an opinion. So I just stuck to using them for small accents in the drawing. And I really like how they made the image sort of pop, because I was worried that they would overtake, so I just used them very sparingly, but I'm actually pleased with the little element of brighter colour that they gave to the coloured pencil. The Sakura Identi-Pen was nice to use as well, I have no complaints about that. And the final touch was the Spectrum Noir glitter marker. That I had a little bit of trouble with because I did a practice run and then I still managed to squeeze it too hard when I was putting the glitter on his scales, and so I got a big splodge of it, and I had to sort of go back over it with the markers to try and bring the colour back out because it made the colour fade a little bit. I do like the sparkle, but honestly I prefer the Kuretake Zig sparkle markers because the glitter doesn't come off as much. I found that the Spectrum Noir one rubbed off a little bit, and also I found that it just looks more sparkly on the paper. So as a personal opinion, I prefer the Kuretake Zig ones, but these ones still do the trick. They still add a little bit of sheen, but you've just got to be careful that it doesn't rub off all over your hand. Now, I don't have a lot of time to talk about Ikure as a character because I talk too much and otherwise the video will end up really long, but just to give a little bit of background information for those who haven't seen him before, Ikure is a character from my steampunk fantasy novel Breakwater, which is very much a work in progress. I would call it a mess, to be honest. And Ikure is a giant merman. He's like 50 feet long. If you put him next to Cinnamon would look like a hobbit. I'd like to put them next to each other actually. And he gets captured by humans, and the main character, Saralyn, has to figure out a way to rescue him, and that's the gist of the story, and of course there's a lot more going on in it. In this illustration I wanted to portray one side of Ikure, which is the attractive side, and the other side is the predator side. So he can lure people in by looking very attractive. He's quite androgynous, it's just the way they look, but actually he is a predator through and through, and when he opens his mouth is quite frightening because he's got two sets of teeth and his fins look nice and soft and frilly, but they're actually razor sharp. And generally he looks very, very frightening, and he will probably eat you if you get too close. So that's why I wanted to add a little bit of detail in the background. If you've got sharp eyes, you might see on the rocks that there are some bones, because I wanted to show that the way that he looks to approaching sailors or passers-by or whoever, that he looks very attractive and he lures them in because they're fascinated by him and they're in for a not very nice fate. So unfortunately I couldn't emphasise the bones anymore because I didn't have any white coloured pencil or a white pen or anything, but hopefully they're just a tiny little detail if you look really close. Also just added in some extra stuff in the background. There's an airship and a little boat and a lighthouse as well. I live near the sea, so a lot of the backgrounds in Breakwater are inspired by where I live, take a lot of inspiration from that, and yeah, so I'm quite happy with how the background turned out, and like I said, I'm pleased with the colours that I managed to get in there as well. So yeah, I'm going to put this original up for sale in my store if anyone would like to buy it, and please do let me know if you've done this challenge and what you thought of it as well. I'd be really interested to hear. So as always, thank you for watching, I really appreciate your continued support, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!